Alrighty, well, I think we've given enough time for everyone to join us, and so we will start our second interview of today's series of sessions. As I mentioned, I'm joined by Jim Thompson, who's the VP of Product at Planet, and we're going to be talking about, as the topic today, Electro Optical Imagery for Maritime Domain Awareness, the current and future possibilities. My name is Matt Brown. I'm the CRO here at Starboard, so I'm in charge of the commercial side of things. And I'm really excited to have Jim join us because it's going to be great to kind of get a sense of his experience and his view from the 5 years or more that he's had at Planet. So as the VP of Imagery and Analytics Products, and also Jim's experience from working across hundreds of different customers within agriculture, government, finance, insurance, and kind of beyond. So thank you for joining us, Jim. How do you do today?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Nice. So just to kind of kick things off, just really keen to kind of get a sense of a bit more about your work at Planet, pretty with the view on the maritime space.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe just start off with Planet in general. We kicked off about 12 years ago with a mission to image the whole world every day. And it took us about 200 satellites to do that. And we have crammed a massive amount of technology into these small CubeSats that now are constantly scanning the Earth. And so what that means is every day we get a fresh picture of the Earth, and that includes land, but it also includes large chunks of the ocean. And so we have the ability to see the Earth every day and identify things that are changing, things that are staying the same, and look for activity that's interesting. In addition to that kind of global scan, we also have high-res satellites that can zoom in and tell us exactly what is happening. So if we are scanning the whole of the South China Sea and we see a bunch of ships show up in one place that looks interesting, we can take a high resolution image of that location in order to better characterize those ships and see if there's any ship-to-ship transfers or things that are interesting happening there. And so that overall has been Planet's mission kind of from day one, is to kind of capture that global change, make it visible, accessible, and actionable to our partners and customers. So that's been a great time. And lately we hear a lot about the opportunities around maritime domain awareness, and the fact that we are able to image these large swaths of ocean gives us that like great just kind of eyeballs on what's happening in order to complement some of the other ways that we can collect other sensor types that are collecting over the ocean as well.
Yeah. Now, have you found that kind of experience of going from terrestrial into marine or some of those maritime use cases? I mean, are there things that kind of stand out as being more challenging than others, or things that you've kind of found that are quite intriguing in terms of the differences between them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, imaging from space has any number of complexities. One of them is just trying to make sure you have the image properly located on the ground or in the ocean. And so when we are constantly kind of scanning on the ground, it's I mean, it's not easy, but it's easier because you can find more features in order to like really lock your location somewhere. But when we're over the ocean, we have to interpolate, and it's a little less exact from a location perspective. And so it has any number of challenges for us to create the imagery that's usable and high quality for our customers. So it took us years to figure it out, but at this point, we're collecting millions of square kilometers of the ocean daily, and able to identify ships. We had a partner recently that was finding planes in flight over the ocean, which was kind of an interesting view. So you kind of have all of the not only ship activity, but like airplanes overhead as well. So it was kind of a cool snapshot of what is in the data that isn't always kind of easy to spot with the eye.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. I think that's also quite a testament to sort of, I guess, how you've had to kind of evolve abilities and how your technology can sort of answer some of these different use cases. I imagine that wasn't probably one of the use cases that you thought you were going to get tasked with. Picking up planes.
One of our founders did a TED Talk years ago, and the way he kind of closed down the TED Talk was like, what would you do if you had an image of the Earth, every day? And it
Yeah.
was, at the time, it was very like aspirational, but today we have 2,500 images of the whole Earth, and so now we kind of ask our question that every day. And when people constantly come up with new applications and new ways to use it, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned that picking planes off the ocean, flying across the ocean as an example. We also heard you mention earlier about some the ship-to-ship transfers and vessels meeting as well. Are there any recent success stories or notable applications of planet imagery in those kind of real-world maritime operations that you can talk to at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few. So I mentioned that we have turned on very large swaths of the ocean in order to collect this imagery, and we do that on behalf of our customers. So because the ocean is so vast, and because it is sparsely populated, we don't choose to collect everywhere over the ocean all the time, but instead we select a few areas where our customers are particularly interested. And so what that means is that we have, like the South China Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, areas around the Middle East and the Arabian Gulf that we collect all day, every day. And we do that on behalf of our customers. And I can't get into too many details of what they are all up to, but they've trained models that use computer vision algorithms in order to identify individual ships, but also it's very easy to see ships that have tied up next to each other, and you can see where these ship-to-ship transfers are happening. And then we also partner with folks like Starboard, who can visualize these additional data sets in order to give you kind of a richer insight into what's happening, and see the tracks of the ships, find these dark ships when their AIS is shut off. And so kind of that combination of the imagery with these other sensors that can give you additional insights and additional details, being able to put all that together, visualize it in one place, it's really powerful. And a lot of our customers are using that and finding tremendous value.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that opportunity for validation of some of those targets or potential vessels of interest or behaviors that you're kind of seeing on AIS or some of the behavioral analytics to actually then be able to validate that or ground truth that with optical is a really valuable solution for customers. The other thing I was interested in particularly around just satellite imagery and I guess in the maritime domain is, you kind of touched on this earlier, is that you've seen a bit of an uptick in terms of interest in imagery being used in the maritime space. Are there any particular sort of sectors or regions that you've noticed that are growing more than others, or any kind of trends that you're observing that might be of interest for our audience?
Yeah, we kind of overall for Planet, our target markets are kind of the industries where we've had the most traction tend to be civil government, defense and intelligence, as well as agriculture. So I guess I'll start with the hardest of the three. I think there is actually some use where within agriculture, people are tracking commodities, or actually watching these ports and watching how my favorite is like silo bags in Argentina that collect a whole bunch of the world's soy. Seeing as those bags come and go gives you some sense of where the soy is going and when it's being exported. And then they can also watch shipping traffic around the ports in order to see when the ships are coming in to pick up the that commodity and take it elsewhere. That's a bit of an edge case, but even in agriculture, we see a demand for this, but so much more so within our like civil government, defense intelligence. Certainly, we see a strong demand for this around the South China Sea with illegal fishing, as well as just some ways where various countries are encroaching on one another's kind of areas. And so we see quite a bit of demand around the South China Sea, just in the fact that we're monitoring kind of the large swath of water means that
Mm.
We're not imaging just like one specific place for one specific customer. We have this whole area covered, millions of square kilometers. And when we look for ships in that area, you can start to see patterns when you kind of map it over top of like every day's detections. You can start to see the areas where you expect to see traffic. You start to see areas where it's more sparse, and so with that insight, you can get more detailed monitoring. And so we have a lot of our customers who will use the high res imagery as well to kind of zoom in on specific hotspots where they might expect or maybe not expect to see a vessel, but it shows up there, and so they want to zoom in and get a closer look. Maybe my favorite example of this is a submarine that we caught going into an island in the South China Sea, where it was a Chinese submarine, where I mean, it was the timing was amazing, right? Because you had this submarine just nosed into an island, and it looked like straight out of a James Bond scene.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, it does. It does have that sort of vibe about it, doesn't it? I guess coming back to what you said at the top there, I can really kind of see now, when you're capturing everything, then the opportunity to, broadly look at some of those patterns in those areas for more focus is really valuable, and a real benefit of what you guys are doing over at Planet. Obviously, I guess in your sort of 5 years at Planet, you would have seen things move and evolve and change quite rapidly. How do you sort of see the market's evolution in the next kind of 2 to 3 years? And I guess in particular, with relation to, as you mentioned, vessel detection and how optical can kind of fit into that maritime domain awareness piece. Where do you feel like that's going?
Yeah, every time we kind of look out into the future, you kind of have to fight the urge to think that we're all going to have flying cars and hoverboards. So 2 to 3 years out, like I try to have a little more realistic view of what exactly we'll be able to do. And the trends in AI these days and computer vision and the capabilities that that's unlocking is really unprecedented. Learning how to leverage that, I think, is our biggest challenge. We have, like I said, like 2,500 images of the landmass of the Earth, right? And having a powerful tool like computer vision, like AI, to look into that, to find patterns of life, to find, build an expectation in that archive so that we can start to predict what comes next, is a huge opportunity for us. So I think over the next 2 to 3 years, it will be about leveraging AI within the data that we're collecting, but also about fusing all these different sensors together. As you mentioned, like we collect optical imagery, but clouds can be a real problem for us. Just because we see a ship, we don't know exactly which ship that is. So AIS data becomes really critical. Having SAR in order to look through those clouds, having other kind of SIGINT providers, the RF folks who can kind of get radar signatures and things like this off of these ships. It's really about fusing all of that together, I think, is kind of the other major trends that I see in the market over the next couple of years, where being able to put kind of multimodal remote sensing into a single pane of glass so that we understand and can derive insights and patterns of what's happening, and making that simple, making that easy, making it kind of frictionless for customers to access. It's a huge challenge, but I feel like the tools are coming together, the capabilities are coming together. The companies are all showing up to do this together and partner in ways that we haven't in the past. So I really think there's an opportunity, and the market certainly seems to be signaling that it's ready. So now we just have to do the hard work, right? Easy.
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? Yeah, I do think you're right there. I think it's deriving that value out of the AI and looking at how you can really leverage it for your particular use case or particular area of expertise. You mentioned there as well, and I just wondered about the use of that. Is it allowing you to kind of look not only at forward collections and some of the things that you're sort of developing, but also maybe back into your historical collection of images to derive further insights as well?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we see the real value in going back through time to build expectations and build kind of a pattern of normal, and then using that pattern in order to check every new image that comes in, right? So you can see, okay, like this new image matches what I would expect based on the last 5 years of data that we've collected. In that, like creating that baseline pattern is a relatively straightforward exercise for us, just kind of leveraging the archive we've collected. And so once we have that baseline pattern of what we would expect in a port or what we would expect in a major shipping lane, or even just a pattern across the whole of the South China Sea, we can create this, view of normal. And then using that, every new image I collect, I do a fairly simple comparison to what I would expect, see how far off it is, and if it's worth investigating further, or if it's worth getting more data to better understand what's happening. Those are all kind of decisions that we can make. And anyway, to your question, I think that's the critical piece, is having both the backward look in order to inform what to expect as you go forward and as you monitor.
Yeah, it's really invaluable having that almost like a training data set sort of back on. I know that we've sort of benefited from that and looking at sales patterns over time as well. Are there any kind of upcoming solutions, innovative approaches, or anything that your team are working on that you wanted to share or want to kind of talk to?
Yeah, I mean, some of the work around AI has been a lot of fun. It's not from a internal Planet effort, but one of our partners is called Synthetic, and they recently found this Chinese spy balloon that had transited the U.S. And the fun part was that no one had ever seen a spy balloon in satellite imagery before, and so they could, with their kind of software, and they have some AI software that's really great. They were able to just draw what they thought the balloon would look like in the imagery, and then they could search, I mean, terabytes and terabytes of data across the whole US, and they began to track this balloon. And in the end, they tracked it something like 12 times all the way back to its launch site in China. And once they found that, like, yeah, to your previous question, they then went back into our archive, and they were able to find it transiting Taiwan, like a different balloon, transit Taiwan, transit Japan. And so they could look for this, what we'd say in the US, like a needle in the haystack. And they could go and find it over whatever area they were interested in. And so, yeah, that kind of tool, that kind of capability is one that we only recently, through this partnership, have started to unlock. And now we're using it in some maritime applications, certainly looking for bespoke objects that people have just never seen before. And now, even though it's never been observed before, it doesn't mean we can't look in our archive to find what it looks like.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I love that kind of idea of once you know of a use case and know of an example, and then being able to go back and try and find those patterns or same objects or whatever must be pretty exciting. In terms of someone comes to you with the needle and goes, "Hey, can you look through your haystack for it?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's been exciting. It's been exciting. We weren't quite sure what to do with this massive archive, and then here we are 5 years later, and it's we're still finding new applications, new uses for it. It's been great.
Yeah, lots of new opportunities there that people just come to you with, I suppose. So that's almost time. I just wanted to kind of end on, I guess, coming back to Operation TS that we've got coming up. Is there anything that you're kind of hoping to learn as being part of a kind of collaborative approach between technology providers in the maritime space, or anything that you're looking to sort of hoping to share from Planet's kind of perspective around Indo-Pacific?
I mean, I think, as I mentioned before, it's this like fusion of different data sets into a common view is so important. And so for me, it's really about just watching this project evolve, like seeing all the insights that we'll be able to derive and find the limits of what the electro optical component does, and then figure out where SAR picks up or where AIS adds value. And, making sure that we're kind of playing our part and doing the best that we can with the sensors that we have, but understanding that we're a piece to this puzzle, and kind of taking a step back and admiring the whole puzzle when it's put together is a big opportunity. So looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I agree. I love that kind of idea of the fusion of different data providers and technologies and coming together to really provide that sort of full picture to analysts. So yeah, very excited to work with you guys on Operation TS.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the end of our allotted time here, Jim. I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us. I found that really interesting and really valuable. And so, yeah, appreciate you making time. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. We've probably got about a couple of minutes or so. If anyone is interested, you can just type your question in the Q&A box at the bottom there. So we'll give it a minute or two, but otherwise, I've found it really, really beneficial. So it's been awesome. Cool. I can't see any coming in. So just as a reminder, because I know this is going out at all the different time zones, we'll be sending out the recording. If you haven't managed to watch this live, and you'll be able to follow up with questions and direct any further feedback or questions for either Jim or myself via the message you get for that as well. So just once again, thanks for joining us, Jim, and thank you for all of you for joining in the audience. And yeah, we'll speak soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cheers.